What up? Still Villa Elohim Ra again. In this video I want to go over the fallen ones and all is ATUM, which is why they call it fall instead of autumn. And I have this up here because first we need to understand the rulers of the chart and the heavy metals, like tubal-cain. Everybody thinks John D he was the original 007, which is nonsense, It's 007, it's tubal-cain, he's the one who made the weapons out of metals. Tubal-cain, 007. Anyway, but this is the moon. This is the sun. These are Mercury. I hate this board. Venus. Oops. Venus. Mars. Jupiter. Peter the Jew. Jupiter. That's a lot of stuff. Whole nother video. Do a lot of mumbling. Both of these are Saturn. Both of them. And they are straight across from the moon and the sun. That's how they go. And that's Saturn is lead, which falls the fastest, the heaviest. Gold, silver. Okay? Get that out of the way first. Lead falls the fastest. Right here is fall. These three. Fall, summer, spring, winter. This is the fall. The sun falls right here. Aries, rearrange Aries, you get a rise. It rises. It's to the top. Autumn, these are the dog days of summer. It's the hottest. And then the fall. Because of the lead. Lead falls the fastest. It's the heaviest metal. Now that we got that out of the way, we can really get into this, Once you study the Bible as much as I have, and you can syncretize it with most things, and it's all in code. A third of the angels fell. I'm sure we all know who the third, 33 and a third degree. That's the Freemasons, Those are the fellows. They're the only males. The Ram, the Royal Arch Masons. They only give you the top of the sine wave. Those are the fellows. No females allowed. And they create the churches, which they call the fellowships. That's very important. And they're using the post, the pole, the North Pole, that goes into the Polaris, not Polaris, Polaris. It spins, the sky is spinning around above us. This is firm, terra firma. It doesn't move. And then you're liable when you really respawn. You respawn, so you're responsible. But you bought the lie, and the lie is called a fallacy. Look these words up. A fallacy is a lie. Which all comes from phallus. All on the fall word, because all is a tomb. Autumn, phallus, is a penis. Okay? And that's where you get all that. The third of the angels fell. They came and they confused our language, And the lead falls the fastest. So if you're being led, you have a leader, being led by a leader, then you're a follower, which means you fall lower. You haven't turned your lead into gold. You're not the author. AU is gold on the elemental chart. You're not the author, the authority. You think you're driving in a motor vehicle when you're traveling in an automobile. You think you have a signature, which is a sigil that signs you out of nature. When you have an autograph, all is ATUM. ATUM. When you fall lower, and they give you the Lord, which is just lowered, you know, and that's where they get lard, because they're making fun of the Cristo oil, which is crystal as one word, crystal, crystalline. The moon is crystal. It's crystalline. It's a record. It records things like a compact disc. And then they have you paying Baal. You got to pay Baal. They used to come and take your stuff in bales, like bales of hay or whatever you had. You know, it's just all about lead. and it's crazy. It's the wheel again. It's like iron is ferrous. You know, any kind of metal you need is ferrous. You know, it's Ferris wheel. And it just, people are trapped in this lower mind, and they get the Cristo, they rub in our face, the lard, what do they call it? Crisco, cooking oil. It's all, they just rub everything in your face, all of it. You know, the third of the angels fell, which is Anglo, Saxon, fishers of men, anglers. I've went over this before. You know, they're fishing from the moon. They're fishers of men. You know, and they cast a spell out. You know, from the cast of El, which is from the house of El, which would be Elizabeth. Beth means house. You know, it's a cast. They're actors, Tor is in creator and actors. You know, they give you acts and statues. It's the cast at the end of like a movie. You know, it's the cast of El. It would be the castle. And they're from here. They call that, they pronounce, the H's are silent. It's the palace. You know, and that's where they're at. From the cast of El. You got to cast a pole to catch the fish, casting spells. It's all syncretism. It's all, you put all that together, and it's just, this is very important. You know, this is who's doing everything. You know, they created a world and overlaid it over the earth with the Khan, like Genghis Khan and Constantine. You know, they merged together. They merged. People don't understand that the Romans merged with the church. It's called the Holy Roman Empire. You know, the Roman Catholic Church. You know, and it's all dictionary, jurisdiction. It's your words. You know, that's what jurisdiction is. If you don't know the words, you're going to jail. Straight up, for real. Once you hand them that ID, that's a license. Which is just the word silence. Comes from the word see, which is yes. You better have some notice. You know, you give them notice, not ice. You know, that's the wings of the eagle. You know, or the hawk, because you've been pawned. You are in pawn. You're in hawk. You are a pawn. You know, and they want your silence. That's all they want. This side of the bird's feather on the eagle has 32 feathers. That's ice. Water freezes at 32 degrees. Those are Scottish rites. They wear skirts. They use words backwards. They're homophones. They're pirates. They want your booty. They're faggots. They got the fasci, which is, when you look up the word faggot, it's a bundle of sticks tied together with the religare, which is where they get the word religion, which binds. You know, that's why they burnt people like me at the stake for teaching this back in the day. You know, they come any time now and burn me. I don't care. You know, burn me up. Let's get it on. Let's get it. You know, I'll be waiting in the ether. You either go up to the Ethernet from the planet, or you go down to the internet. Inter means death, bury, internet. And they're using all these words on you. You know, you graduate. GR words they all have to do with the grave or the ground, grass, grain, gravel. You know, you graduate. You have that square on your head. That's these guys, and that's called a mortar board. Do I need to explain what a mortician does? You know what mortgage means? Death pledge, mort. Put that mortar board on your head. Graduate. You know, it's all these fallen angels. They messed up the language on you. They got you speaking Taurus fields that don't make no sense. You know, your torso is rearranged as Taurus, you know, from the divine feminine, fertile crescent, the crescent moon, the feminine, divine feminine. You know, she ain't going to reach out to you if you're going to poison the whole vine. You either divide or you divine. You know, you serve the virgin or you serve the whore. Plain and simple. It's just plain and simple. You got to know the words. People can make fun of me all they want to, and tee hee hee and giggity giggity and all that. I don't care. I'll holler at you, you know? Shit. Just be careful, you know? There's blue, green, red. The devil is red, and all those Krishna's blue, you know, for a reason. Please believe that I know what I'm talking about. All is ATUM. All is ATUM. They told us it's time for truth. I love y'all. I just want to stress it enough. This earth would be a great place. You know, earth, ether, heart, green. Go to the green mine. Go Vern Mint. Vern is green. That's why spring is called the vernal equinox. It's when everything turns green. And the autumnal equinox. You know, it's all right there. You got to know your Taurus fields. You know, we all come from the divine feminine, from the clitoris, from the inner G spot. And I'm trying to help. You know, and that's why the sign for the ram, for Aries, the little fallopian tubes right there. You know, that's the feminine. That's where everything starts. You see it everywhere. Everything starts there. And they use ram as Royal Arch Masons. Type that into Google, hit enter, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's all there. It's hidden in plain sight. They have to show it to you. You know, it's their way of full disclosure. You know, they got you in contracting every day. The post office, they're the ones that send the contracts to your mailbox every single day. Every single day, all capitals named, because you've been captured, captive, decapitated, under that Capricorn false first day of the year, which is the goats, sheep, and the goats. Those are the only ones that have horns. And, you know, that's a whole nother video. With the divine feminine, they're using all the divine feminine against you, rubbing it in your face. The subconscious, you know, it feels it. You know right from wrong. You mean if you ain't even into truth, I'm sorry for you, because they just want your silence, which means consent, because you didn't say no. You know, if I come over here and I took your eraser and you didn't say nothing, I'm keeping this. But if you say, hey, that's mine, and you took it back, you're keeping your eraser. I mean, that's all there is to it. If you're not going to say no, if you're just, I'm guilty, you know, of what? There's no accuser. You didn't hurt nobody, no harm, no foul, you know. Is there a man or woman present who has a claim against me, you know? Where's my accuser? Does it say the state versus you or the people versus you? I mean, I can go all the way into this, you know. Are you charged or are you indicted? Are you a people or are you a citizen? You never know when he says nothing, ever. They just, okay. You know, it's just, please. Let's be free again.